Hi, I'm Chelsey Lang. I'm the Head of Brand and Community for the Pharma portfolio at Informa Markets, and I'm here today to talk about why I believe that data and storytelling are a match made in content heaven for event marketers. So a little bit of background before I kick off. I have been working in events for around 6.5 years now. My background is very much in content marketing, so I'm very, very focused on how we can bring content and events marketing together and how using content in the right way can really strengthen your brand and the message you send out there as event marketers. So I wanted to start off with something that I recently saw on TikTok. I think this is a really interesting new way of looking at kind of the old-fashioned left brain, right brain debate. So people were asking, are you this kind of marketer or are you this kind of marketer? And actually, I would take a step back and say, I believe that in my view, we really need to be this kind of marketer. In events, we're obviously very, very number orientated. We look at our visitors, our exhibitor numbers. We look at things like floor density. We look at NPS. We look at marketing influenced revenue. We're really, really digging into the data in so many ways across events. But I think we're also a very human industry. At the end of the day, we're driven by human connections. We're bringing people together. We know that face-to-face time is just so important across all the industries that we span. With that said, I know that not all of the time everyone is going to be an expert about all of this. I think naturally we tend to be more inclined to be one type of marketer or the other type of marketer. So the team you have around you is absolutely essential. But I think it's really, really important as someone who was originally very much coming from that creative content writing background, being comfortable and learning to understand how to approach the data side really made a difference to my understanding of the industry and my understanding of marketing and my career. So I think it's really important to be comfortable, at least, with all of it. And here is why it's so important. So this is a slightly terrifying diagram from Gartner about all the different touch points and stages that the average B2B decision-making journey goes through. Obviously, this will vary slightly industry from industry, but I think the biggest takeaway here is that the journey isn't linear anymore. There are so many different touch points and opportunities for engagement before someone will ever either register or inquire about exhibiting or subscribe to keep hearing from you. On one hand, this gives us so many opportunities about how we can be creative to reach our audience, to engage our existing audience, to reach new audiences. I think it gives us opportunities to be a little bit more creative and human about how we do that sometimes. It definitely gives us a lot of chances to test different tactics and different formats. But with so many different touch points, it's more important than ever that we know what actually works when it comes to connecting with our audiences. And so we know we have so many chances to connect with our audiences. Now, how do we know what is working? So I think for starters here, I do think the term vanity metrics gets thrown around a lot. And actually, sometimes they do have their place. They do tell us information. But in this moment today, I just wanted to share an example based on how we've used data and metrics to really dig beneath those initial numbers. So we had a really strong piece of content and we had two main goals for this. We wanted to raise awareness of the sponsorship opportunities that we give our audiences. And we also wanted to encourage people to download that ebook. It was a very educational, informative piece that we could then also follow up and nurture them with more information, ultimately hoping that they would engage with sponsorship opportunities. And at a glance, our content was performing really well. We had a really high performing paid campaign. We were getting a really high number of impressions and clicks and a really high number of page views to that piece of content. But we wanted to ask the question, is that content actually achieving those goals? Were people downloading? Were people learning more and engaging with our sponsorship opportunities? And actually, we found when we dug a bit deeper, there was a very high bounce rate and exit rate. People were spending a very low time on the page. A lot were spending less than a second. And there was really no conversion from those unknown visitors into known audiences who we could then follow up with. So it really indicated to us that there was a need to revise the targeting and the promotional tactics that we were using to get that piece of content out there. At this stage, we didn't even really know if the content itself was performing because we weren't getting people to take that step to download the full piece and read through it. So with that said, it wasn't all bad news. For those who were engaging, it was a smaller number, but we did have them. We were able to go into our CDP and we were able to see who they were and where they come from. This gave us some really invaluable insight into how we could best target them and also how we could personalise their messaging for future campaigns, for future event-related messaging, and we were also able to tailor the follow-ups that we did with those people. It gave us some really useful information as well to improve the targeting of the original campaign. We knew who it did resonate with, so we could use that information to expand and reach new similar audiences. And I'll finish up with this. So as the diagram earlier showed, the customer journey now is a lot more complex than our traditional funnel. With that said, this is our dream. The Gartner diagram is the reality. But I do believe that this is still a really useful way to think about the planning and creation and tracking of your content, with the added caveat that it's more important than ever to think about your call to actions and build those next steps in and really track them as well. So you're giving people those opportunities to dip in and out of your content and messaging and really put themselves through that journey. I think as event marketers, we have a habit sometimes of stopping at the bottom of the funnel here. We get them to the event, we get them exhibiting, and we pause until the next time. But I think that it's essential, more and more so, to keep that funnel, kind of turn it into a circle, keep re-engaging them, keep understanding what is important to them and what that behaviour tells you. The data and insights you get can really tell you how to keep that engagement going and keep giving them more value throughout the year, rather than needing to start from scratch at the start of your VisProm or your XProm campaign. And through this is also how you address some of those higher level brand type objectives. You can really cement your expertise and authority in your subject. And ultimately, you can build up that long-term loyalty, advocacy, and community, which ultimately is what our events are all about. So thank you so much for listening in. If you have any questions, do feel free to reach out at any time. Always happy to discuss and answer questions. Thank you.